Hey, this is Lukas Nelson, and you're walking the floor.
I'm walking the floor over you.
Walking the floor.
I'm walking the floor. Walking the floor over you.
Hola, senors and senoritas. Yes, this is Chris Shiflett, and you are listening to another fine episode of Walking the Floor. It's a rainy day in Copenhagen. If you listened to last week's episode with Sheryl Crow, then you will know that I was in Copenhagen recording the little ramble part of the episode, and I am still in Copenhagen. Not because I've been here for a week, but because I'm cheating, and I'm recording 2 rambles at the same time. Because my family's about to get out here, and I don't want to be burdened with recording the podcast ramble intro stuff, okay? So give me a break. Anyway, since I recorded the ramble intro to the Sheryl Crow episode, I went for a nice walk around town. Copenhagen, beautiful city, love it here. I've always had a lot of fun in Copenhagen. Walked all over the place. I almost bought a velour Adidas tracksuit, and then I sort of second-guessed my way out of that, because I kind of had that realization that unless you've got the frame of like Muhammad Ali in 1966, you pretty much have no business in a velour tracksuit, and I definitely don't have that frame. Sorry to say. Wish I did, but I'm just a little fella. Anywho, I want to remind you, I mentioned this last week briefly, but this is the last episode of Walking the Floor for probably about a month or so. Tour's ending. Well, when you hear this, it'll be our last show of this tour in Greece. That day that this episode comes out, and then the tour is going to be done, and I'm going on vacation with my family. So I'm going to take a break from this for a little while, but when I get home from that, I will pick it back up. And I still have several good interviews in the can that I haven't even posted yet that I'll get to, when I get back. All right, let's sell some gear. Let me tell you about my good friends over at Zounds.com, where they allow you to play as you pay. Because at Zounds, you never, ever have to pay full price all at once. You can split your order total over 4, 6, 8, or 12 monthly payments, man. And they will ship your gear immediately after you make that little first payment. Remember, Zounds, they are not salespeople. They do not work on commission. They're real musicians. Sounds.com. Okay, let's get on over to today's interview. Okay, so a few months back when Foo Fighters were in the studio recording the new record that you haven't heard yet, right in one of the studios next to us was my man Lukas Nelson. If you don't know who Lukas Nelson is, he is the son of legendary country artist Willie Nelson. So anyway, he was in there recording for a week or two, and we got to chatting, and he's a really, really good guy. A lot of fun to hang out and talk shop about guitar playing with. And as it turns out, he lives like a stone's throw from where my studio is that I generally do these Walking the Floor episodes at. So I got him to come over, and we had a nice little talk. I love seeing a guitar player embrace classic rock lead guitar playing the way that Lukas Nelson does. It just warms my heart. If you listen to his records, there's like beautiful, long, sprawling guitar solo breaks all over the place, and it's great. You just don't hear enough of that these days. And Lukas Nelson is keeping that tradition alive. He's been playing and touring with his dad since he was pretty young. He's still pretty young, but he's seasoned. In addition to playing with his dad, he's done a lot of work with Neil Young in the last several years, and he's got his own band called Lukas Nelson and Promise of the Real that he's been carving out a great career with for a long time now, actually. And he's got several records. He's got a new one that's coming soon. I think it's supposed to be out by the end of summer. And the guy's always on the road. I know he's got tour dates through like the fall, so check it out. This is Lukas Nelson on Walking the Floor.
Well, they fixed me up good, but my heart's still bleeding.
I'm not like a vampire where there's like that would be like an audio vampire, you know, where like vampires can't be seen in mirrors. What if you couldn't be recorded?
God damn, that would fuck up my whole income stream.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would be bad news.
That'd be terrible. Where do you live?
I live not too far away from here. I'm on the west side.
That's where I want to be. Yeah.
Oh, right on. Yeah. What? So you just moved to LA, right? Like you're pretty recent transplant here?
Actually, I lived here for a long time. I went to Loyola Marymount University for a couple of years.
Okay.
When I right out of college, I right out of high school, and I left from Maui, and then I came down here, and then I had a girlfriend here for like 8 years on and off, and so I lived.
You're new to this neighborhood.
Lived in Venice. I lived in Venice.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not new to the West Side. I'm new to Mar Vista specifically.
Yeah.
But I like it here. It's nice.
Yeah, it's nice. This neighborhood's like it's gotten way cooler.
Yeah,
since everybody's been pushed out of Venice.
Yeah, I feel like it's coming up, kind of like Oakland is in San Francisco. You know, where like Oakland used to be just kind of run down, and now it's got a lot of art communities. Because all the tech guys moved into Venice.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, into San Francisco and Venice.
Yeah. So you said you grew up in Maui. Prior to that,
mostly Maui.
Was that like your whole life? Like how much time? I so closely associate your family with Texas.
I was born in Texas, and I spent the first 10 years of my life there, going back and forth from Maui to Texas, but mostly in Texas early on, and then around when we were in high school, is when we went to like Maui full time.
Okay.
But we still go back.
But you have Texas roots, like you feel connected to that place.
Yeah, I mean Texas is where I feel most like that's where I'm home. Home is. But I also feel like actually it's probably even now with Maui.
Right.
Just because Maui really has taken care of my soul in so many ways.
Right.
I love to surf and like be in the sun, and so actually
there's something very cleansing about getting in the ocean.
Yeah, the ocean is really important to me, and so,
I feel the same way. Like I don't know if I could ever live off a coast.
No, I need to live near the ocean.
Yeah.
That's just has to happen, which is why Texas is great for being my home, but I just need to be near water.
Yeah.
I used to wakeboard and do that kind of thing in Austin.
Did you see there's that wave pool down there now?
Yes.
I haven't been to it.
Very enticing.
Looks pretty fun. Yeah.
It's very enticing. Yeah. Kelly Slater just did that whole thing with some partners of his. I don't know. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, I want to get to that next time we're down there on tour for sure.
Oh, yeah. It's got to happen.
I'm going to need an extra day.
That's got to happen for sure. Yeah.
Like what was growing up in Maui like? Like as a mainlander and a surfer. Yeah. I love Hawaii. Like I love going to Hawaii, but it's always a little tense for me to surf over there.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't know how much of it's in my head. I mean, I haven't had like terrible experiences, but I've been yelled at in the water and vibed and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm wondering, was it like because you hear about things like Howley hunting day and shit like that. You know what I mean? Did you experience any of that sort of stuff?
No. The worst I ever got was I kind of invited this girl on a date surfing.
Yeah.
In Maui, and she was she's kind of like more Howley, like white like me, but she and interestingly enough, all the only guys that are super aggressive in the water are like kind of like Howley guys. They're like they're like Howley Hawaiians, you know, where they're like they have family, but they're there for a long time, but they're like white,
right?
Which is just, I mean, it doesn't really matter, the aggression though seems to come from there. So I had this date with this girl, and we went out to this place called Honolulu. Which is out there, and it's kind of localized, and I actually had been surfing for a long time, and I felt comfortable, but for some reason I was nervous in the water, and she was so hot, and I was there, and like all the other guys were like ogling her kind of, and it was so embarrassing. I I dropped in on the wave, and this guy like came from way far. I didn't see him,
Right,
and so like we had this incident and he was like, "Get out of the water, get out of the water." You're and I'm like, "Really, man? Come on, like, can't we just smoke
Peace
a
and
joint
love,
about
brother."
it?" So, like, and it was so embarrassing because she was there, and I'm like, and there were like 5 dudes, so it's like I'm not gonna fucking get in a fight here,
right.
And so so I just kind of won out, and then. And I was like, I don't know, super young too, and a musician, and just like, oh man, I just wanted to have a relaxing time with this girl.
That's like such a part of growing up, especially when you're a teenager, like getting totally faced in front of like some chick you're trying to impress.
And I felt like so like emasculated too, because I was like, am I gonna try and fight all these dudes and just get my ass beat? I should have probably.
Just for the story, because you wouldn't.
Story.
Or, but
but you could get killed. Bad. Like, I mean, there's some dudes that. And so I went back to the beach, and I actually had a joint in my car, and so I kind of like I kept talking to the guys, and I was like, listen, man, can we just work it out? I'm like, and it ended up his dad was like best friends with my dad.
Whoa.
Yeah, and like used to, hang out, and so like then he apologized eventually, but I was still embarrassed in front of her, and she was like, that was kind of dangerous what you did, and I'm like, oh, you didn't even take my side.
That's good. That's good. If she thought you were the danger guy, then maybe the date worked out.
No, dangerous. What I dropping in?
Okay.
I was like,
now she's critiquing your surfing.
She was critiquing my surfing. It was the worst.
Oh, that's
but
terrible.
Since I have like. I mean, I got better at surfing, and then I just, I don't know. So
those are the kind of moments that like you have to like. You're like look so far down the line forever. Like, nobody there, right?
Now I'm super careful not to drop in, and in fact, like the other day I was in Topanga. And they're super aggro. They're more aggro.
That's the
here.
one. Yeah, that's the one spot really in LA.
In LA,
I feel like that like still gets some of that like.
And First Point in Malibu gets that way too.
Right.
It's always where like the smallest waves, where like it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, sure.
Like, and I'm always like, if there's a little kid or whatever, I just like take the wave, man. It's like I just feel like, come on, this is aloha,
Yeah.
None of that would fly in Hawaii the way those guys act.
Really?
I mean, some of those guys, like they're so aggro. They're just yelling in the water constantly.
I always trip out on those guys because they just look miserable.
They're
like,
so
are you out here
miserable.
like to have a good time and get a couple of waves?
Oh yeah, like don't look at me too long, bro. Like that kind of.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm just looking at you because you're interesting.
Yeah.
You obviously want attention. You're yelling all the time
At everybody,
and
that's
and then
funny.
So actually, I've had more incidents of seeing incidents here in LA than I have in Maui, because Maui, it's really hard to be upset in Maui.
Right,
it's really hard to be mad there. You gotta have to be, there's more like this kind of gang thing going on in Maui, where there's like a group of guys that just control the waves, and but they hang out in a certain area, and
you just know not to go there.
I think I'm even okay to go there now, but I don't even want to deal with it because the waves I think are better in the other areas. It's not like there's like enough peaks in different areas at Ho'okipa, which is the break that I usually go to. I go to Tavares or Ho'okipa, and everybody's, as long as you know what you're not like dropping in,
putting
constantly.
anybody in danger.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing about LA. It's like what people I feel like don't realize is the water's cold and most of the waves are shitty. And it's super duper crowded.
Right. Well,
you know what I mean?
In
so
LA,
it's sort of slim pickings.
Malibu's great. I've spent a lot of I had a lot of great waves in Malibu, and then I really like San Clemente is just world class, and I'm going down to San Diego tonight to to surf for the weekend. Actually,
oh nice,
do a little golfing and surfing combo. I hope so. Yeah, and if it's sunny and nice, yeah. So it's a matter of preference. I actually find in some ways that California has more consistent waves than Hawaii, than Maui actually. And Maui,
see,
it's
I wouldn't think that. See, I've always wanted to. I only ever go to Hawaii for like short little vacations.
Sure.
I was just having this conversation with a buddy of mine the other day. I so badly want to go spend like a whole winter there. Spend
Yeah.
like 3 months.
Oh, the
there or
winter is
something.
always great waves.
You know what I mean? Because I feel like that's like the only way I would ever get. It's so much faster and kind of punchier and more powerful over there. That every time I'm there,
It's
like
fast.
by the time I'm leaving, I'm sort of starting to get my sea legs. But then I'm gone, and then I don't come back for years.
No,
you know what I mean?
And yeah, I know, man. You got to spend time.
Right.
there.
You feel like you got to
spend
put in the time over there.
I think I'm going to this month. I'm going to try and go back. I have
nice.
like a couple weeks off, so I'm going to try and go over there and just like, even if I have to go and fly and come back, it's actually pretty easy.
So you said when you were on the date that you were pretty young and you were already a musician. I mean, how old were you when you first started playing?
I first started singing when I was really young. And then I started playing guitar around 11, 12.
See, I would imagine like that, or I would assume that your whole life you were just surrounded by music because of your dad and everything.
I was, yeah.
Okay, well, I was going to ask because then I was thinking, well, maybe I'm wrong because I think of my own kids.
Right.
And although they're all into music and they all kind of play a little bit, they're pretty insulated from what I do. They're not around it that much, just kind of in bits and bobs.
No, I made a choice. I found that I had like kind of like a spiritual experience with music that gave me the passion and the desire to sing and to write and to play guitar. A lot of it had to do with my dad and him being gone so much, and like me loving him so much and wanting to be closer to him. So like finding a way to do that. So like, music was a way I could like spend more time with him, especially if I figured if I got really good, then I could go on the road, which I did, like after a couple of years, then I was like 13 when I joined his band and I would go out on the road.
I'm assuming those were your first gigs.
Yeah,
that you ever did, were playing with him?
They were playing with Dad.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
How was that to go back to like playing? Did you have like high school bands and stuff with your buddies back home?
Yeah, I had a high school band. But I learned really quick. I played 8 to 10 hours a day. I'm sure as you did. Just like I didn't really have a life in high school. I didn't have I didn't really try and go to parties or whatever. I never even drank until college. I didn't have a girlfriend until I was 17. I was like really a late bloomer, and I was isolated. I think from my parents were protective of me, and so and they were protective of us, and there was a lot of weird shit that happened when I was younger, and kidnapping attempts and things like that. And like
really,
yeah, and like I think it screwed. And then my brother died when I was young. He got into drugs and he committed suicide when I was really young, and so that really tore my parents apart. And so my brother and I were like we were the youngest and the only ones of my mother who my dad was with, and it was just like we were the only boys left, and and I think that Dad really and Mom especially just like kept us really protected for a while,
right?
And so I had a lot of time, I didn't like school that much, so I just played guitar, and I just this is what I want to do. I kind of knew at a young age, this is what I'm just going to make my life this, because I think it means freedom,
I think that's a really lucky thing, and I think that's something that a lot of people that do what we do share, is that like in the same way I knew what I wanted to do for my life when I was like 12 or something. From a pretty early age, I had no question where I think a lot of people lucky. I grew up with kind of got lost after high school or after college, because they never really figured out
had that feeling.
Was,
I can't relate.
Right.
I can't relate to the feeling of not knowing what I want to do in my life. Because even before music, I had a dream. Like I was on a swim team, and I was like, okay, if I'm on the swim team, I'm gonna go to the Olympics. Yeah. Like I'm just gonna work hard and go and do it. Yeah. So I knew that whatever I did, that's just the type of guy I'm at. I'm like, I gotta get into. I gotta be the best. Or not the best, but not even in a sense of competition. Just I gotta be my best at what and so that's just always how I've been. Just whatever I do, I don't know, I guess maybe that's probably to do with my genes, or my dad and my mom are both that way, so you know.
So when you were first learning, or when you were first getting, you said you did your first gig when you were 13 or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, what were you woodshedding on in those years? Were you just listening to like your dad's records and his record collection, or were you also, did you have your own sort of thing going? Because I listened to your band.
Yeah.
It's so much heavier.
Yeah.
Than you would expect. You know what I
Sure,
mean? It's
yeah.
like got like a classic rock kind of jammy thing.
Yeah, we
and
have-
like a kind of a grungy thing too. You know what I
There's
mean?
some of that, yeah.
And so you've obviously got that influence in there, but that's not what you're doing when you're going out initially with your dad. You're playing like
Well, yeah,
those
when
country
I
songs. You know?
yeah, and you know, so I grew up listening to my dad and old country music. I never really got into new country, and my mom showed me rock and roll in its entirety. Like my mom showed me Neil, and you know, when I knew Neil, we didn't know Neil very well, but he was always at Farm Aid every year, so I saw him. So Farm Aid, you know, but my mom was just a huge lover of the 60s. She grew up in that kind of thing, and so she showed me the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and like, you know, the Doors and Jimi Hendrix and once Hendrix came along, that was that religious experience. I had she bought me Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix when I was about 11, and we went to San Francisco on a school trip, and I had a Walkman and I had Are You Experienced, and I put it in and I drove up through the redwoods listening to this and it was just just floored me.
That is exactly the right environment for that record.
It was perfect.
Right.
It was like she bought me the records in at Amoeba or one of those like old record stores on Haight and Ashbury, and it just felt the vibe.
Yeah.
Like calling me.
Yeah.
You know, and Stevie Ray and Jimi Hendrix, and I listened to both of those records on this trip. Up through the redwoods, and I was done after that. I knew exactly that I wanted to play guitar. Red House was the blues. Was
You're like, Mom, I need a Strat and a fuzz face, and I need it now. And a Marshall. Throw a Marshall in there.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've all had that moment where we just like, I know what I want to do, and that was mine, you know.
That's funny. You know, I remember the first time I saw you play live, I could see that in your playing. I'm like, oh, dude, that guy loves Stevie Ray Vaughan for sure.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
And I think of you as a Strat guy.
Yeah.
Because I think maybe every time I've seen you, you've been playing a Strat.
Yeah.
But like, are you a gear hound? Do you have like a bunch of old killer vintage
I have
guitars?
a really great vintage guitar that I'm using a lot now, and that's it's a 1956 Les Paul Jr.
Ooh,
Oh,
nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
What is that? P90s?
Yep, P90. It's one.
Is it all OG?
Yeah, it's all OG except for the headgear, the tuning pegs.
Oh, okay.
Because it wasn't staying in tune, and it's it's functional. I
Right.
use it on the road.
Yeah. You take your old shit out on the road with you?
Oh yeah, I mean, man, I gotta play that thing. You know, it's I can't just let it sit there. You know, it's got too good a tone. And it's like it really, it's really a beautiful thing. And so I go out there and I use it, and but I still have a lot of love for my Strat, both of my Strats.
And what's your setup live when you go out on the road? And does it
Magnetone.
vary?
Magnetone. I use these Magnetone reissue amps. They're really, really solid. A guy named Ted Kornblum took the company on and really did a great.
Are they like remaking the old style?
But he did it to the T.
Really?
And you should get one, man.
Oh yeah.
You should check that out.
Yeah, for sure.
You should honestly check his amps out because they're really good. I could put you in touch with them.
Absolutely. Yeah. That'd be great.
Ted's great.
What about pedals? I mean, you've got some crazy guitar tones. You know, some super fuzzed out stuff. Like,
but
what do you
don't
use?
use that much. That many. I don't have any. I have a tuner that I use. I have an MXR preamp, boost. And then I have a Boss Blues driver. Just one of those blue ones.
Okay, so that's not like an outrageous amount.
That's it.
It's not like, wall to wall boutique-y crazy.
No.
Setup.
I don't. I mean, I've had that same setup for years and years and years, and I always read, and because I also read a lot about all the guys that I loved. I read their biographies, their autobiographies. I read what they loved. And for example, I loved Stevie Ray so much, but I didn't try and listen to him I listened to him endlessly, but I also really went
Albert King.
Yeah,
and all the stuff
I went
that
and listened to what
sure.
he listened to.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to get my own style. I didn't want to just be
Right.
a Stevie Ray clone, which there are of millions of, thousands of people out there that play just like that.
I mean, it's kind of ironic that he might be the most influential blues guitarist of all time. White dude doing it.
Right. Well, yeah.
Since then, that had sort of redefined in that sort of cheesy bar band blues thing that.
Yeah.
That
and a lot of guys are doing it now, and they're doing it great. I mean, there's some great guitar players out there that play just that style, like Kenny Wayne Shepherd and Johnny Lang and what's his name? What's the other guy's name? Joe Bonamassa.
Oh, right, yeah.
And those guys are great, and there's just so technically, to me now, I like to go back and find songs. So that was one thing that I also felt like I had that made it so that I didn't want to totally get caught up in the blues like that. Where I was no, I know how to write a song. Right. I wrote my first song when I was
breaking out of the 1-4-5 sort of.
Yeah, no, I mean,
thing,
I was more into the Beatles too, and I was into Dad and all of that. I mean, I wrote my first country song when I was 11, and Dad loved it so much he put it on his record.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he put it on his record called "It Always Will Be," and it's a song called "You Were It."
It's interesting, your dad's songwriting.
Yeah.
And I think this is true in lots of different genres, but certainly for him, I always felt like his songwriting didn't stick to a lot of the sort of standard country.
Oh no!
Like the format or whatever.
Well, he loved the blues too.
Sure,
he loved the blues and he loved
even
jazz.
The guitar that he played, who the fuck plays a nylon string in country music? He's the only guy. You know what I mean? His
favorite guitar player, Django Reinhardt.
Sure, of course.
And his favorite singer, Frank Sinatra. So he took jazz
right
and brought it to country music.
Oh yeah, I mean you hear that in songs like Crazy or something.
Crazy.
Some of those chord changes. Those are not classic country chord changes. Yeah.
He's got it. He's got that kind of influence.
So you were developing as a songwriter from an early age.
From an early age, songwriting was the one thing that I felt like I'm never going to be the fastest guitar player because I don't want to spend enough time scaling, to do that.
But you do rip. That's the thing, and that's the thing that I enjoy listening to your music.
Oh, well, thanks.
Is you're a ripping lead guitar player in a time when there isn't that much of that. I mean, there's a lot of people. I feel like when grunge came along, lead guitar became illegal in rock music, and everybody stopped playing leads. Most people did.
Right.
And then it slowly crept back in, and the Strokes and the White Stripes and people like that started bringing it back into rock and roll.
Yeah.
But even a lot of and so I feel like there's more sort of guitar playing and lead guitar playing now than there was for a while.
Yeah.
But not much of it goes where you go, which is just full on
Thanks.
classic rock ripping.
Yeah.
To my ear.
More like Clapton and Neil.
Right.
Neil just goes balls to the wall.
Yeah.
But I never really gave, to be honest, I've never, I know this is going to sound very hipster of me, but I don't care what's happening in the musical climate at the time, know? And there's a lot of bands that will be like, all right, well, this is happening right now, so we got to go that way.
Yeah.
And that's part of the name of my band, Promise of the Real. It's no, we have to, and the reason I named my band that, number one is because it's after a Neil song, Walk On. Sooner or later, it all gets real. Some get stoned, some get strange. Sooner or later, it all gets real. Walk on. So I was like, oh, that's...
Well, you actually took your
band name
is
from a
inspired
Neil
by
song.
Neil.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so,
many years
previous to... I met our drummer at a Neil concert.
Really?
Yeah, and we became musical partners based on our mutual love of Neil.
Whoa.
And then it was like Neil, like 7 years previous, sent like this bat signal, and we met all these guys, and then like we became his band.
I mean, how did that? I'm sort of jumping ahead here now, but how did that collaboration come together between you guys and Neil Young?
Well, we had been a band for a while.
Right, you guys have a lot of albums out.
Yeah, they're all like self-released and just out
really?
there. Yeah.
That's
but
cool.
We've kind of gotten a nice little following. But now we just signed to a record label, Fantasy, with Concord Music.
Okay.
And Tom Wally is the guy of Warner, and and I've got a great management team. And so now this next record that we did is, I'll have to show it to you. It's really good. I'm really proud.
Is that
of it.
already recorded?
It's recorded and set for release sometime in August, I believe.
Ah.
Yeah, so
So
we'll
how'd
start
the thing
really.
with how did it come together with Neil then?
Oh, right. So Neil, we play Farm Aid every year,
Right.
and I was playing Farm Aid with my band, and we covered. What did we cover? We covered a couple of songs. There's one song that we did of Neil's, "L.A." off of Time Fades Away, which is an obscure Neil album, like a super obscure kind of like he never released it. We just, we just.
Oh, really?
It was just one of those like it's out there on bootleg.
Like the fans are
it's-
bootlegging it and sending it
And Neil
around.
knew it was out. It was just one of those things, and so we covered that song at Farm Aid, and this was like 4 or 5 years ago. And Neil came up to me and he's like, "Hey, man, that was great. It's cool." And Elliot came and he's like, and his manager Elliot came. He's like, "Now you owe us money." It was funny.
Good luck.
I'll
Try
be
and collect it.
collecting.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. And so Neil liked it, and that was like I could have died right then.
Sure.
And then I met this guy Rick Roses, who was one of Neil's bass players for a long time. He's since passed away. Really incredible bass player. And Rick and I started playing a lot together when Spooner Oldham and Rick and I, and I was writing a lot, so we just got in the studio a couple times. And then Rick came and saw us play a few times, and he emailed Neil and said, "Hey, you got to check these guys out. They're doing something real." And so Neil asked for my email, and we kind of became pen pals, and we'd talk, and he'd kind of give me some advice. And this was 2 or 3 years ago, and after a while, we just like, I just kind of was like, I wouldn't hear from him for months and months and months, and it's just, he was going through his family stuff, and we just kind of kept playing and kept showing up at Farm Aid, and we'd see him there, and I would like always look forward to seeing Neil. And then one day he came up during Farm Aid and he's like, "Hey, we're going to be playing this show together with you and your dad and me and your band." And I was thinking maybe your band and I could jam with you guys, And I'll bring my electric. And I was like, hell yeah, And then he invited Micah and I to play acoustic with him at that night at Farm Aid. And so a couple weeks later, we played this show in Nebraska, and my band is solid, and we all love Neil and grew up with him, so we all kind of knew his songs anyway.
Sure.
And so we sat on the bus with him for like half an hour before that show, and then learned his whole set, and we jammed it and blew everybody's mind, and Neil was like blown away, and we all just became... it was like meant to be,
Right.
And it was super. And my family was there, and we were at in Nebraska protesting the XL pipeline,
Right.
And so, it became just an instant connection. It felt like cosmic,
Well, it sounds amazing. I was wondering because so often when you meet and play with people that are your heroes or
Right.
icons in music, it can be awkward.
Oh, yeah.
And it can be at times disappointing, but it doesn't sound like that was the
No,
experience
not
for you
at all for us, man. We just, I feel like, we all came from the same cosmic soul cluster, like I felt drawn to Neil for a long time, and I know that a lot of people have, and I just feel like, growing up listening to him and listening to my dad, and I feel like Dad and Neil are really similar.
Right.
So I felt very comfortable, with I think that also helps that Neil, like, we weren't like nervous around him because
Right.
like that can be weird too.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. You
And
can create the awkward.
You can create the
in those
awkwardness. You know.
situations, yeah.
And I just was like, you know, this is what I do. I play music. I know I can handle myself musically.
Sure.
Personally, I don't know.
That's another story.
That's another story.
Yeah.
But I know I can do the music thing, and I know that Neil respects that. And so, like, all I have to do is just play my best and be like, "Yeah, Neil, let's do it. You know, let's go."
Yeah.
And so we'd get together. So a couple months later, he emailed me and he was like, "Hey, why don't you bring the guys into the studio and we can, we can do some songs." And record them. And we were like, hell yeah, let's do it. And so we went in the studio and did that whole Monsanto record.
Right.
And it was fun. I mean, it was just a good mood the whole
Right,
time. And
right.
it's in the last 2 years of playing with Neil, it's just been a constant elation.
Has that been most of what you guys have done in the last couple of years? Because you did a couple albums with them, right?
we did a live album. So what we did was, after that, he said, okay, we're going to go on tour. So we're like, all right. So we learned hundreds of Neil songs. We went into the into the separate from Neil. We just went into like a recording, like a studio, and we just sat in rehearsal studio, and we sat and we learned 80, 100 songs of Neil.
Wow.
And he was like, whatever he pulls out,
Does
we're
he
going to
just
know
change
it
up the
already.
set list every night, or you just gotta kind of be on your toes?
He literally has this is kind of from working with each other, because he was really happy that we knew all these songs and we wanted to learn all these new songs, and so he has this big this big cue card thing where it's like there's like 200 songs written on it, and we bring it out on stage with us, and he'll just like point at one and we'll play it, you know.
Right.
Like next, there's no real set list, but
it's got to keep you on your toes, man.
it's so much fun though, because I don't know, man, there's this thing where it's like it feels like you just kind of, in some ways, I mean, it just feels right, you know. It feels easy. I don't know.
Is that something that you think will be an ongoing collaboration?
Oh yeah, forever.
Right.
You
There's
know,
no,
on
like,
and off.
We're done with that. Like, it's just
No,
kind of
no.
when you get the call. You
I mean,
just gotta
look,
go do
we'll
that
drop
again.
anything to be with Neil, you know,
Right,
and
right.
he knows that, and I think that, and also we're lucky enough to have our own careers now separate from Neil, and we had that before, kind of like we were already kind of
Yeah.
right. I mean, he obviously helped us a lot in now, like through Desert Trip, when we played Desert Trip.
Right.
The reason that we were at I met you at East West was because Bradley Cooper saw us play at Desert Trip, and then asked me to help him with this movie he's doing. And so, and that snowballed into us, like me producing the music with the band, and the band became involved, and that now the
wow.
band's in the movie, and we're all, you know, acting in it, and it's just like it kind of snowballed into that. So, you know, I just feel like there's this thread of positivity, and it's a wave, you know. And
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the only thing that we have as a band is just constant gratitude for life bringing us, you know, into like meeting you and
Sure.
like and Dave and all, you know, all these great people and that we feel kindred to. You know, it's like I mean, just to be able to play around and have fun with great people in your lifetime is just all you could hope for, man.
And just be able to play on
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah,
You know? I mean,
exactly,
that's
yeah.
really, if you really boil down the essence of the dream,
Yeah,
to
it's-
make it
it's
or
to
whatever
have
it is,
fun.
it's right. It's to enjoy your life, but it's to play music every single day,
Yeah.
at whatever
Yeah.
sort of whatever level that is.
At whatever
you know?
level it
Right.
is. And we were having fun when we were in a van, you know.
Well, let's
following-
talk about that a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
what was that like for you to go from, you know, playing in, I'm assuming, decent size, you know,
With Dad.
venues with your dad,
Yeah.
to then go out and break out on your own, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, we're in this bar, and like 20 people showed up.
Oh, no, I
like,
had to
did you
do it.
have that kind of experience?
No, I didn't really, because even in college, college was where it kind of was born for me. This is where I really started going. I dropped out after 2 years, but I knew I could do well because I would start playing in the middle of like the dorm. Sorry.
That's all good.
I would be playing in the dorm or near the dorm, and then I'd get crowds of people come up and listen, with just me and an acoustic. So I knew that I had a kind of like the ability to hold a crowd. And I knew that I was going to be okay musically. I just always kind of knew that, and I fell in love with the girl during college, and she wasn't going to the college. She was in LA. She was a beach volleyball player, and she played. And we fell in love, and then I got my heart broken, and I was just like, I gotta quit school and go play music. That's the only thing I can do to really keep my heart right. I knew that I had to make that move once I got my heart broken, and once I felt like, okay, this life that my parents or my mom or whoever wanted for me to like finish school and like have like a normal life, quote unquote, like it's not gonna happen. I knew it wasn't gonna happen, but college was where I really knew it wasn't gonna happen. And I dropped out of school, and I lived in my car for 6 months, and I would go play these gigs that my dad's manager put me in touch with an agent at William Morris, and he was like trying to get me gigs, and we got gigs here and there, and we'd play and we'd do well. And like I met Anthony at the Neil concert around that time, and he's our drummer, and then we kind of amassed a band from the guys that I had been playing with before and in Maui. And then like I started Promise of the Real right around that time, around 2009. And then I just hit the road in a Econoline van, a Ford Econoline van, 91, with swivel seats. And
I know the Econoline well.
Yeah. And we went on the road hard, and we played little clubs and bars and gigs, and we just made it work. And I loved it.
Have you seen it grow over the years? I mean, you guys must have a
now we have, now we can, anywhere in the country at this point, we can bring, 300 or 400 people, if not more. Some places thousands, but then, it's just like, it depends on where. I think with this next record push, it's going to be a lot different, because we've actually never had a publicity team really pushing in conjunction with a record label release. Everybody kind of working at the same time, and then we have like this following and this stuff with Neil, and then the Star Is Born movie and all that stuff. So I just feel the momentum, it's like there's a tipping point. If you read Malcolm Gladwell's book, there's some kind of point where everything just spills over. I feel like I found success years ago anyway, just being able to make a living doing what I do.
And when's that coming? When's the new record?
I think in August.
Oh, okay, so soon.
Yeah, soon. Oh yeah. We just finished it.
You have like your year or two mapped out?
Yeah, well, we have
all that sort of thing.
The touring, we have the summer and into up until like November mapped out so far, and we're still filling dates. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing, man. That's you've led quite a life.
Yeah, it's intense.
You're still a very young man.
I know.
Much to do.
Yeah, I know. My back hurts a little bit.
Tell me about it. Wait till you get to be my age. I just turned 46, motherfucker. I'm in pain all the time.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you want to play a song?
Sure.
I would love it.
Yeah. Why don't I do one from the newer record coming out? That might be the smart thing to do.
Cool.
This is a song called If I Started Over. What if we had to start over? What if the end never ends? What if our lives are not a straight line? Infinite faces, infinite minds. What if we all are just dreaming? How would we deal with our pain? Would we be playing these sad little games, destined to come here again and again. And why are you on my mind? It's that feeling again, like when I first looked in your eyes. If I started over, I'd welcome you in. I wouldn't be scared of facing the end. If I started over, I'd find you again. What if we all are just dreaming? What if we're ruled by our screens? What if emotions are chemical games? Why am I here? And why do I sing? And why are you on my mind? It's that feeling again, like when I first looked in your eyes. If I started over, I'd welcome you in. I wouldn't be scared of facing the end. If I started over, I'd find you again. I'd find you again. I'd find you again.
Cool. That was fantastic, and it actually reminds me of a question that I meant to ask you that I didn't get to. That sounded like classic country to me.
Yeah.
So are we going to see a Lukas Nelson country record in the future?
This next one coming out is pretty. It's got a lot of that going on.
Nice.
Yeah,
that was great.
Thanks. Yeah, it's kind of like more of my roots. I've been listening to a lot of like Sinatra though. I've actually. Let me play you one more.
Oh sure.
I mean, you don't have to put it on there. I just want to. This is one that I was just. I want to do like almost like country versions of this old list. Quiet nights of quiet stars, quiet chords from my guitar, floating on the silence that surrounds us. Quiet thoughts and quiet dreams, quiet walks by quiet streams, and a window looking on the mountains and the sea. How lovely. This is where I want to be, here with you so close to me, until the final flicker of life's ember. I, who was lost and lonely, believing life was only a bitter tragic joke, have found with you the existence, my love. I who was lost and lonely, believing life was only a bitter tragic joke, have found with you the meaning of existence, oh my love. Pretty, huh?
That was fantastic.
Thanks.
Great chords, man.
Oh yeah.
Is that an original?
No, that was
What is that?
Antonio Carlos Jobim and Frank Sinatra did that song together.
Oh, okay. I think I have that record.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
What's that song called?
It's called Quiet Nights of It's called Corcovado, but Quiet Nights of Quiet Stars. Yeah, it's a beautiful record.
Amazing.
The whole thing is produced. I think it's the greatest produced record I've ever heard, probably.
Really?
Yeah. That.
Oh, man, I'm going to have to go dig that
yeah,
out
go
when I
dig
get
it
home.
out.
Fuck.
Dig it out. Dig it out with your girl.
Ah.
It's like,
We are
it's a
going away
romantic-
for the weekend for our 14-year wedding anniversary, so that'll be good.
Perfect.
It'll be a good one to
I'm
pop
telling
in
you,
for the drive
it's
up to
perfect.
Ojai.
Yeah. Oh man. You guys.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you feel so good it won't feel real.
All right, that was Lukas Nelson on Walking the Floor, doing 2 songs. He did not only If I Started Over from his forthcoming record. You can only find that here, ladies and gentlemen. That is a Walking the Floor acoustic version exclusive. And then his take on the classic Quiet Nights of Quiet Stars. Lukas Nelson. Go check him out at promiseofthereal.com or on the Twitter at Lukas Nelson with a K. He's got tour dates stretching out way out on the horizon, man. He's going to be on the road forever. So get his new album when it comes out. Get his old albums. Go buy a ticket to one of his shows. Just do it, man. Come on. Support him. Anyhow, that's it for this week. That's it for the next probably month or so. When I get home from my travels, I will pick it back up. I've got some great interviews in the can with Lindy Ortega, Paul Kelly, Michael Monroe, and more. And I'll get to them when I get home. So, in the meantime, go back and catch up on your old Walking the Floor episodes. We're getting real close to 100. We got to do something special for the 100th episode, but it's coming soon. So get caught up. Have a great summer, and adios, amigos!